This is the Cheat Codes Podcast with your host, Thomas Dockstader.
Jimmy, great to have you on, man. I've been looking forward to this one. You are, well, heck, I don't even know what they would call you. You're an entrepreneur. You're a real estate agent. You're a disruptor, investor. I mean, what would you classify yourself as?
Yeah, man. I mean, the latest is obviously, I think a community organizer. That's what I like. That's what I've always done the best, whether it was with my real estate team or what I'm doing now with the men's group, is always just trying to unite people.
So that's a big thing for you. And that's something I would give you kudos is from the time that I've met you, which really hasn't been that long, maybe a year ago or so. You have a very unique ability to organize and bring people together. And that's a very powerful skill. Where do you think, let's talk about where that came from. How people don't just have that.
Yeah, I think when I was a kid, dude, so I was the sixth of seven kids. And my favorite thing was coming home to a full house. It just was. I loved it. My brothers had all their friends over, or when my family had friends over, family friends, getting together with big family. They just always loved it. I loved being around big groups of people. It's where I felt very comfortable. I mean, even just being in a house of seven kids, there's 9 of you in there. So you're just have a lot of people around all the time, right? And so I think for me, I just really enjoyed being around people. And then I remember when I was in 10th grade, 11th grade, one of my best buddies, Nick Halland, he would throw parties. He was the rich kid in our neighborhood, right? We were poor. We really were. We were house poor. He was the rich kid. And he would throw these parties at his house and, have 50, 75 people over from the school. And I was always very aware of what was going around me. I think that social intelligence, that's something I just naturally, I think, have pretty well. And so I can be in a room and I kind of just know what's going on with everybody.
Okay.
And so, I'll walk in a room and most people are just, I don't know what most people do, but when I walk in and just my mind starts going, okay, he's with him, he's with her, they're doing this. That person seems to have something going on. That person seems a little bit anxious. This person seems a little bit afraid, whatever. My mind's just doing that. And so I'm becoming aware of the room very fast. And so when I would go and watch him, have these parties, I recognized that at the end of the party, all the cute girls wanted to know who had thrown the party. They wanted to hang out with the guy that threw the party. So it wasn't lost on me, right? And so when I got home for my LDS mission, and on my mission, I just learned to talk to people all day long. And so I really enjoyed that. And I got home and I just said, well, I'm going to be the guy that throws the parties. And, the host gets the most, the guy that's throwing the party. Nobody cares if you go to a party. But if you're hosting good parties over and over, people want to be around that. They want to make sure they're invited to the next one. They want to make sure they're, a part of it. And so I just started throwing parties. And I had money because I had started a meat business door to door. Okay. And I was making on average $1,000 a day when I'd go out. So, 15, 20 grand a month as a college kid at 21 years old was pretty damn good. And I had other guys working for me. And this is, 20 years ago or whatever. But so I would throw a lot of parties. And that's how I'd get all my steak salesmen is I had this little condo I bought and I ripped out some trees in the backyard, put in a hot tub and had the barbecue back there. And so we'd have 40, 50 people over once a week to have steaks and chicken, and everybody else we're all college kids. Nobody has any money. And so they're like, who the hell's throwing steak parties, right? And that's how I get my sales guys. That's how we get our dates. Yeah. Well, I had this theory on dating. It's like, if you meet a girl and you immediately ask her out or whatever, you kind of putting yourself at a little bit of a disadvantage. But we would have this game where it was like Tuesday was, steak night. And so what we would do is if you had a cute girl in your class or you met one in the hall, you'd be like, hey, you and your friend should come over on Tuesday. We're going to have a bunch of friends over for steaks. And so they would come over and we had 40 or 50, beautiful people that were already going to be there. Mm-hmm. And so it was this cheat code. Speaking of the cheat code, it was a cheat code to basically get whoever you were interested in to come over and immediately kind of see that you were worth getting to know more. And so I started throwing parties and I liked it and it worked. It helped me in business. It helped me in dating. It was just fun. I got to meet cool people. And so I just kind of, and I'm just kind of one of those guys that's always pushing the envelope. I like, I'm very curious. I'm always wanting to go bigger. So I would just try different parties. I would just try stuff all the time and I would study it. I would study what makes a good party. And I started coming up with all these different little secrets, I would say, of why my parties were always so good.
So, okay. You said a lot there.
Yep.
where are you in the child order? Are you a middle child?
6th out of 7. So I'm towards the bottom.
Almost the youngest.
Yeah.
So how old's the oldest? Like what was the gaps?
Probably 12 years older.
12 years older. Wow. Okay. And you had 5 or 7 siblings?
7 of us total.
7 siblings. Okay. Or total.
I'm one
6.
of 7.
You had 6.
Yeah.
When you were really young, did you feel like you kind of had to like work to be heard?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, if you either did something really bad or really good, otherwise you kind of got lost in the mix.
Exactly. So do you think that, I mean, I'm looking at this and right away I can tell like your desire to be popular / known surfaces potentially from trying to make your voice heard as a child, like ultimately?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it was because I wanted to be heard. I'm sure it was, but I think I enjoyed that. That was when I was happiest. And so I remember like my dad one year threw a big 4th of July party and we did these big fireworks in the backyard and he almost lit the neighbor's house on fire and all this stuff. And it was my favorite day of my youth. And I remember as a 9-year-old kid going, when I get older, I'm going to throw the biggest fireworks show in town every year. And then I did.
So you saw a lot of value in that.
Oh yeah. I was just like, as an adult, I want to recreate this. I was constantly thinking about that. And I would, I think as I got older, it was that 12-year-old inside of me. I was just trying to like impress that kid myself, and so I would do things that I knew he would love. I remember I had a buddy when I was in 6th grade, my buddy Nick, they would go, I grew up in one of these neighborhoods where you had people of all social classes. Mm-hmm. You had the dudes that literally would their whole family would go to Hawaii on their summer trip, right? Okay. Then you had the families that were going to Disneyland and Lake Powell usually was the same. And then you had the families that went camping. That was like our family, right? Or whatever.
That was our family.
Yeah. And I remember they would come back from their Lake Powell trips, my buddies, like 3 or 4 of them in this neighborhood I lived in. And they were always bragging about their houseboat trips and all this. And I remember as a 12-year-old going, one day I'm going to have my own houseboat and I'm going to throw the best damn trip anybody's ever seen. And what did I do? I went and threw 40 Lake Powell houseboat trips in my 30s, right? I remember just again like that firework event, wanting to recreate that. And so I ended up having, the last 10 years I've had over 10,000 people per year at my fireworks show. It's the biggest one in town. And so I've recreated these things that as a child brought me happiness or made me feel inadequate or not enough, right? In the case of the houseboat. And so I think it's a mix of all of that. But yeah, I was definitely one of these little kids that I didn't like feeling left out. I didn't like feeling that I wasn't part of something. And so a lot of what I've done as an adult is just made sure that I'm the one in charge of it. I can't get left out if I'm the one doing it.
That's true. So let me ask you this. How are you when you're alone?
Well, how did I used to be or how am I now?
Both. Let's call it childhood and then yeah.
Yeah. And childhood's hard to remember. Childhood, it was just, I was busy. I was just always busy. You're playing sports, doing school, hanging out with buddies.
So not a lot of
family, had
time.
a lot of stuff going. No, not really. I lived in a bedroom with 2 other brothers,
No alone time.
Basically no alone time. Yeah. Then you go on the mission and you literally have a companion 24/7 for 2 years. You're not alone literally for 2 years straight, outside going to the bathroom. And then I got home and immediately had 4 roommates. Yeah, just basically never spent time alone. So my whole 20s and I would say my whole 30s, I had a hard time ever being alone. I didn't like it. I can remember many, many nights like I didn't have something going on. Mm-hmm. And I'd go to the gym for a second time that day, or I'd go to the grocery store even though I didn't need anything. I just wanted to be around people, right? I needed that stimulus and always looking for the
So you're a classic extrovert, like 100,000%. Like
I was, yeah.
Okay.
And then I started, working on myself about 6-7 years ago, like really diving in, doing plant medicine, some of that kind of stuff, and really took in the value of meditation and these other things. And when I first tried starting to meditate, it took me 2 years before I could get to 8 minutes by myself. I'm not joking. Like my nervous system was so shot.
Was there a certain type you were trying?
I tried everything. I had one of those damn things you wear on your head that beeps or chirps at you. Okay. I tried it all, dude. I finally found a YouTube video that's really good. It's got like 30 million views. It's because it's amazing. The first 8 minutes is guided and it gives you like 12 minutes of just kind of sounds.
Have you tried Transcendental meditation.
Like nothing?
No, transcendental meditation.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, you haven't. All right, cool. I'll teach you how to do it.
Anyway. But no, so I got to the point where, and I really started seeing the value of it. Well, then a couple years ago, I hired a coach, Stefanos. He came to our retreat this year at the B1 conference. And he said, Jimmy, he said, God finds us in silence, solace, and solitude. I mean, it's in the Bible. It's where they go to the top of the mountain by themselves. They go on these, retreats. And he said, you really need to start spending time alone. And so he challenged me to spend at least once or twice a week going into nature for like an hour and doing nothing, literally just sitting there, no phone, just sitting, just allowing. And dude, the first time I did that, man, that was a long ass hour. Right. And then a couple of years ago, I actually rented a cabin up in Sundance. I went and sat there for 2 days straight, left my phone in my house. I just sat there by myself for 2 days, just in nature, just chilling and enjoying.
It's pretty good.
Just being there. And and I couldn't believe, how it was starting to change the way that I felt about things. And now, so I just bought my new house and, I don't want anybody living in my house. Like
Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, I've had my own house for 20 years, but I've always filled it up with people.
Right.
Even my old house, I rented my basement, and now I don't want anybody. Like I'll have people over, but it's on my terms. Right. And I love having my alone time. So now every morning I start my day with a walk at 7 a.m. And then from about 7:45 till 10 is my own time. So I'll read, I'll meditate, I'll chill. Sometimes I'll take a bath. I study a lot in that time, but that is my time and it's my alone time. I don't break that. And so that time I want by myself. And then almost every single day I'll go for a walk by myself. Like yesterday, in fact, almost every day I go either down by the river or whatever. I'll just go for a walk by myself. And I actually prefer fewer people in my life now, which is
you're starting to enjoy your own company more, and it's maybe less of a desire to need. Yeah,
I think it's a combination of things. Like number one is, I poured into so many people and I really did create so much for so many people. And it came with a set of rewards and everything else. But you kind of have a couple things where you kind of start to get a little bit jaded. And I started realizing every problem I've ever had in my life is by letting too many people in my life. And I had an experience a couple months back. I had he's probably my best friend. I've got, 5 or 6 guys that I consider my best friend. And they really are by all means, this is as good of as you could hope for a best buddy. And one of them, my buddy Travis, I realized he had a new baby and I realized I didn't know his baby's name. And I was like, how do I not know my best friend's baby's name? And it was a couple months old. And I was like, holy shit, Jimmy, how can you call him your best friend if you don't even know his child's name?
Yeah.
Let alone I'm praying for the baby and I'm spending time. And so I've pulled it in the last probably 6 months or so where I just realized I'm going to go a lot deeper with all these different friendships that I really, the ones I really want to pour into. And I'm not going to give my attention to as much of the periphery. And, thankfully I have a job where I've chosen for 10 hours a day, my job is to build community, right? Yeah. So during those 10 hours that I'm working during the day, I pour into the we are the they guys. That's what we're doing right now.
Yep.
Always able to do that. But 10 hours a day, 40, 50 hours a week, if you include the weekends when we have events, it's plenty. I'm pouring into them a lot. Other than that though, I'm just learning to say no to things that otherwise I would have always said yes to and not feeling bad about it. Right.
That's what I was going to ask you, actually. When you got to that place where you weren't giving yourself time, like meditation and walking and stuff, when you started doing that early on, did you feel guilty or I
didn't feel guilty. It felt like I should be doing something more productive.
Like you're not that's the wrong word to say it. It's almost like giving yourself is a low priority, I guess, or something to that effect. I
didn't look at it that way. I look at it as if I build and I push now and I build when I was in real estate, everybody's a potential client. And I just enjoyed being around people. I did. I enjoyed going out to all the parties.
So you were I'm going to give my time later.
Yeah, and it was what I wanted to do then. I did for those 20 years. I wasn't forcing myself out the door. I did go out every single night to build my network and to do that, but I wanted to.
But you were forcing yourself to stay in.
Yeah, those
like
were
that's
hard.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, and so once I kind of changed that, so now it's funny, dude. Like I will just sit and I love it, and I don't know if that's just I got to that point in life. I have financial security. I have friendship security. I have enough people in my life to pour into me, and I pour into them. So it's not like I'm feeling any kind of loneliness. I feel alone when I'm in a room with people I don't want to be in. I don't feel alone by myself. I don't feel alone if I go.
I think that's an energy thing, honestly. Like to your point, like if you're in a room of people that you're like-minded and it almost feeds you just to be in that energy. But to your point, if it's kind of surface and you just, I don't know, people are there for the wrong reason too. It's like draining. It's like
and I think I had a lot of people, like even like some things with, the we or the they. I've done certain things that were so sacred and so beautiful, and people have tried to use them against me and like almost bastardize the moment. And I'm like, no, dude, you were there. You know how special that moment was. And like seeing that, you're like, wow, like, dang, that's how somebody wants to take this. Or I've put myself out there to try to help people. The number one thing that people come at me for online is I was a speaker at this event, AlphaCon. And dude, back then I was just trying to say yes. Like it was a young kid that asked me if I'd speak at his business event. I said, sure. I ended up getting blasted for it. I'm just like, okay, like, and every time I've tried to go out of my way to help people, it's when I get in trouble. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna be much more intentional. I mean, I say no to 4 out of the 5 people that ask me to be on their podcast now, just because I'm like, I don't know what that person's gonna do. If I don't know them and they don't have at least 60 episodes and a little bit of history, like I can see that, I don't go on. Like I'll platform anybody on mine because I can always delete it. But I'm like, I don't want to be attached to these people that if something goes south again. And all these issues that used to come to me. So now more than anything, I truly value my peace. And I think this is just something that happens as you get older. I want peace. And so, in the past, I would pick fights online with people. I haven't responded to a troll online in 3 years. I refuse to. I won't. And by the way, I don't even, if somebody says something negative on any of my channels, I just block them. It's like, I wouldn't let you come in my house and say that.
Right.
I wouldn't let you walk into my studio right now and say that. So I'll just block you.
Talk to me a little bit about that, because I don't think a lot of people understand that. Like you're kind of going from just being, average Joe to where people you don't know you. Right?
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
That's a weird thing to think about. Yeah. People that you don't know you. They're commenting about your lives. They're making judgments. They're passing things. What was that transition like as you kind of have moved into being more popular, more recognizable? Like, what was that journey? Because to your point, I would imagine now I have a very small following, but if I get a negative comment, it like hurts me. I'm like,
here's what you got to, and you kind of go through this because I've been in this public sphere for probably 10 years or so, right? And I'm attached to a lot of people that have been through a lot of controversy. Everybody from Tim Ballard to Trevor Milton, Aaron Wagner. And so I am like, I've had 700 guests on my podcast. So I've had some characters on. I've had some people that ended up being frauds and things like that. So I've been in the public eye in a lot of different ways. And so here's the cool part about what I do though, dude. And so between my books, my podcast, my program, those things really do change people's lives. So 99.99% of the interactions I have in person, I actually really love it because people come up to me. I had one the other day. This guy ran up to me as I was literally sitting in my truck at the gym. I was just like on a call, and he like looked over and he kind of glanced back, and he comes over and goes, "Hey man, my cousin." He's like, "My cousin lives in Washington. He listened to every one of your podcasts. Can I get a selfie with you real quick?" I was like, "Yeah, for sure, man." And so we take the selfie or whatever, and he was just so excited to meet me. And so it's not like being an actor or being a musician. Like people are like, "Damn, dude, like your thing changed my life." Like I was working out at the gym a couple months ago, and this Mexican guy next to me, I don't even think twice about this guy standing next to me. For all I know, he doesn't even speak English, right? And all of a sudden he takes his headphones off and he's like, gets kind of emotional. He goes, "Hey man," he goes, "you put a podcast out on your Real Men, Real Conversations podcast that changed my son's life." He's like, "I want to tell you about it." He's telling me how this podcast, he felt seen with his porn issue like he never had before. And it gave him some like ways to work through it. And he's like, it's changed his whole trajectory of life, man. And he's super emotional. So when people are approaching me, it's actually really awesome. Mm-hmm. It's what motivates me the most, sure. Right? It's really cool to see. The people online, I don't know if I've ever had somebody actually attack me online that wasn't anonymous. Like they're cowards. So
Interesting.
they'll do it on Reddit or they'll do it on like Twitter, but it's always an anonymous account. Like only time I've gotten shit online from real people is when I deserved it. I was talking shit about sports or something and they fire back.
Yeah.
But dude, real people, they don't attack you. And so it actually doesn't wear me down to have it. It's more so when I know people and then they just, like they're human beings, dude. When you're dealing with enough humans, you're going to have these interactions where people take you out of context or they bastardize the thing you're trying to make sacred or whatever that might look like. But the interactions that I get with people are actually really beautiful. And so as long as you stay off the comment section of stuff, it's always anonymous. And so you just don't look at it, And so for me, that doesn't really affect me.
So in making the comparison of, let's say just you were a real estate agent originally, right? Making a bunch of money, all of those things. The comparison of what you're doing now and just that example of someone coming up to you and saying, dude, you altered my life. Yeah. Talk to me about the difference in the level of reward that those two things are comparison, money versus that.
Yeah. Well, and look, there's rewards in real estate too, because I was really good at helping people find their house or get their dream house or get into the neighborhood where they want to raise their kids. And so there's a little bit of that, but yeah, I was in real estate for the money, and I was crushing it. And then I pivot to the new thing that I'm doing now. And thankfully it still does well financially. I don't make a third of what I made in real estate, but I was really good at real estate. I still make a good living. But dude, like the texts I get from people every single day, the messages I get when I see the friendships forming, all the different, every single day I pull up my Instagram or my Facebook, I'm seeing guys from the group hanging out. Like Coachella last weekend, there was 3 guys with their wives that went to Coachella together. And one of the guys, when he joined the program 3 years ago, he never had a best friend and he didn't know if he was worthy of having a best friend. And now he has these friends that are his ride or dies. They are like literally family to him. And that's just one example. There's hundreds of them, right? And so when I get to see that, it's so rewarding. I saw one yesterday, 2 guys that are doing a business downtown Salt Lake together, met through the program. It's literally a guy sent out a birthday invite last weekend for a guy in group 4. And I went down to his downtown, went to Fleming's, and he had 12 people there for his birthday. Every single one of the closest people in his life came from the group, all 12 of them, like, and their spouses. And so it's like, that's the gift. It's like, wow, how cool is that? What's the value of helping people find best friends? What's the value of helping people connect on that level? And dude, it's pretty special, man. It's pretty fun to do.
Well, I think the fulfillment difference, right? Like, yes, you can go hustle and make a bunch of money and that's cool and it's fun for a bit, but then that fulfillment piece seems to almost be it's almost a hollow feeling. Whereas you're getting stuff that when you look in the mirror, it's a validating feeling in saying like, I am doing something for other people and I'm really proud of it. We're going to lead into this because this is really important, but 2 years ago, I went and did ayahuasca and I had done a bunch of work on myself, really worked hard, hadn't touched a substance for 6 years, nothing. But I had this deep calling to go and do it. And when I went and did it, I told the shaman, I was like, I don't know why I'm here. I just felt like I had to come and do it. And he's like, okay. And then, we go through 3 ceremonies and I get this massive breakthrough on the 3rd ceremony. And the message was so crystal clear in, Thomas, you're enough. You're good, dude. You're enough. You don't need anything else. You're enough. When I had that level of self-love for myself, I had already written my book and I came back with this like invigorating feeling of like, I have to help other people. I have to. Like, that's all I want to do. So while I have a tech job, it's not my passion. My passion is I want to help other people because there's nothing greater from a fulfillment perspective and nothing more you want to do than see someone go from a low point to a high point. And you're doing that day after day after day with so many people. And it's absolutely incredible because the ripples that you're causing in society in general from a vibration perspective is massive. And that's what I am trying to do, right? Like it's one little drop at a time. But I want to help as many people as possible. And I commend you so much for like really finding, I think that's, you found a strength of yours, which was the ability to pull people together. I don't have that ability, right? My ability is in other areas, but you have this ability to bring people together. And then you're grabbing people that are experts and kind of fueling that fire, which is creating that environment that allows people to grow. And, this is your studio. So you're allowing people to share their messages, right? Like it's this ripple effect that starts to happen. And it's absolutely incredible. I want to talk to you about, we don't have to go deep into it, but I would love to hear from you. Like if you could sum up what you received from ayahuasca.
Yeah, I've sat, I think 8 or 9 times now. The first time I went, it was 3 nights. It was a night on, night off, night on, night off out in Costa Rica. And, a couple big lessons that came out of that one. I went into there hoping to learn more about empathy, and had some big breakthroughs with that. I learned about celebrating life and really enjoying life and finding the beauty in when we celebrate, we honor God. And then my next ayahuasca was probably my biggest takeaway is I had this experience. My buddy had said, because I've really had this issue with praying since I left the church I grew up in. I don't like actually kneeling down and praying. It just feels performative to me. And so, I don't believe that's the relationship that I had with God. He said, well, just close your eyes and picture yourself going somewhere and talking to Jesus or whatever. And I was like, oh, I like that idea. And so I did it while I was in ayahuasca, and it felt very real, man. We went and sat on this rock, and I remember I was sitting there and we're having this conversation, and I could just ask, I think I was talking to my higher self, but I just was for 2 hours, excuse me. For 2 hours, I'm sitting there asking questions, getting the exact answers to all those questions that helped me answer my questions about religion, about God, about Jesus, about, manifestation and dating. Had all these huge breakthroughs. And so really formed the impetus for how I look at all those things now. And I can give one example if you want me to.
Yeah, please.
So like we're sitting there talking for a couple hours. Again, I'm talking with Jesus,
I understand.
And again, my higher self, and it's not like he's there like you are now. I've got my eyes closed.
Your mind's up,
having a conversation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I said, this is really awesome. I would love to do this more often. Like, how can I have this experience outside of ayahuasca? And Jesus is like, well, what did you do to prepare for this? He's like, you did this special diet for a couple of weeks. You got all your friends together. You got the shaman. You did all these things. You fasted, all this so that you could have this experience. You took this potion, whatever you want to call it, that you knew was going to make you sick, make you throw up. And part of actually when I was trying to go deeper is I knew I needed to go take another cup before I could have this conversation with Jesus. I just knew.
Isn't that interesting? How
medicine basically told me if you want to do it, you're going to need it, but you are going to get sick. And so I was like, whatever, let's send it. And so he's like, how much intention did you put into that? And he said, it's always about intention with me. He said, that's really the secret, is if you want to find God, it's about your intentions. And so I said, so it's not so much about religion. He's like, no. He's like, it's your intention. And so he's like, okay, so like the Muslim guy that's praying 4 times a day and he goes on this huge exodus of he's finding God when he goes to him. He goes, of course he is. And the Mormon guy that goes to the temple and fasts and does all these things and they go through this whole thing and they're in the, the celestial room. And that's why they are communing with you, because of the intention. Yeah, look how much effort they put in to have that experience. And so I was like, oh, and I go, so it doesn't really matter so much about religion. It's just intention. He goes, it's all about intention. And so anytime you put this kind of intention into it, you're going to find God. And I was like, wow. And so I was like, well, so like when I pray beside my bed at night and it's like, 45 seconds, I'm just doing it to, because it's a habit and to jump into bed. I go, so you don't really want me to do that? He's like, no, he literally is like, and it was just a real conversation. He's like, no, that's fine. I'm not going to give any answers. Like,
you're working through some childhood constructs right there.
For sure. He literally just goes, what do you want me to say? I'm not going to give any answers. It's 45 seconds, but sure, whatever, keep doing it. And it was just funny. And so I really learned that day that, and it really answered my questions about the Mormon church, after leaving. It was like, wow, like for people that are doing it and they're in it, like they absolutely find God that way. So of course they do. And it just made so much sense to me. And God, what all loving, all knowing God wouldn't honor somebody that's truly with full intention trying to find him. It just makes so much sense logically. And so I'm like, wow, that's so beautiful. And so it's really helped me to develop where I have 0%, I would say at this point. I have no animosity towards the church that I left, right? 0. I think it's beautiful. I went to my nephew's baptism last weekend and I was truly able to enjoy the spirit of it and be there. And I don't want any part of it. I was I still think it's boring, but like at the end of the day, I could really honor them with my full presence there and feeling that energy.
Yeah.
And so that was one big thing I took away from ayahuasca. I mean, there's a million others, but like, yeah, it's gotten me a lot. I think for me, it allows me to cleanse any shame or guilt or feelings I have, and I puke it out. Mm-hmm. I've had that experience in ayahuasca where I literally knew as I'm puking into the bucket that it was my shame from past things that I was puking out. And they really did leave me after that, which was incredible. Right.
Yeah. The purging is powerful because it's, you hear about it and you just think you're like throwing up, right? It's not even like that at all. It's like,
you know exactly what you're throwing.
You can feel it. It's like leaving you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's like so powerful in the way that it does that. When I went 3 nights, and the first 2 nights I couldn't purge. Dry heaving, could not purge.
And you want to puke so bad.
Want to so bad.
Shit in your gut.
They're playing the music and it's just agitating you so bad. You're like, please just let me throw up. But I couldn't. And the 3rd night, it was like my father came to me and I was just like, I wanted his approval. And the medicine said he was doing the best he could. I said, I don't care. I wanted his approval. It's like he was doing the best he could. And I said, I wanted his damn approval. And the medicine said, you mean like you give your son your approval? And I was like, oh. And then it shows me 6 generations back and it's like, your dad wanted his dad's approval and his dad wanted his dad's approval. You see what's happening? It's happening over and over and over. You have to stop it. Please stop it. And then I saw this love for my dad and I had all this empathy for my dad. And then it expanded out to my mom and expanded out to my siblings and expanded out to the entire world. And I was like, oh, the whole world doesn't know like what they're doing. They're doing the best they can. And then so I had all this love for all of them and then it just all goes away. And then the medicine says, Thomas, you can give yourself that love. And I was like, I'm enough. It just like, it was like the simplest, like, and then purged everywhere. It was all that false belief of just like not being enough. And the power of your program, dude, is like, you're basically, whether it's crawl, walk, run, step stoning people to that realization that they are enough, that it doesn't matter what your dad or your mom said, or your church said, or whatever. You are it. You are enough. You don't have to become something. You are it. You just have to remember who you are, which I think is just, we need more of this, right? Yeah. Like we see the shape of the world. There's so much arguing and just like side picking and all these things. And it's like, I feel like it's all these distractions preventing people from just discovering who they are, which is like
there's like a quote. It's like loving ourselves isn't so much about something we have to gain. It's just stripping away
the false beliefs.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why I asked you about your childhood and if you felt heard, because when we come into this world, everybody loves a baby. Mm-hmm. They're so cute and sweet. They're just selfless and kind. But then what happens is they start to absorb everything around them. They see their parents not valuing themselves. And then they think, oh, this is my mom. She doesn't value herself, so I can't value myself. Mm-hmm. I take it on. I absorb it. And then I see everyone, how they behave. I absorb it. So before we even have a fighting chance, we're 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and we have so many false beliefs about ourselves. Then we go into the whole workforce and you get so distracted, how do you find yourself? Because you're going to the game and you're doing this and you're doing that. And it's like, I believe that with the advancements of like AI and like the automations and like all these things, it's going to reduce the amount of like jobs that we have. And they've talked about universal income and like things like that. But think about this. Imagine things are really cheap because everything can be built really quickly. What if people don't have to work? What are they going to do with their time? That is where I believe something like you're doing it's going to explode, because people are going to say, what am I doing? What are we doing here? Why are we here? And what, because I can no longer distract myself, or they're going to be like Wally and they're going to get so distracted in their phones 24/7 that they will just get sucked in.
Yeah. And I think that's like, I think when so many people are just trying to figure out how to put food on the table. They don't have time to dig into their childhood traumas and what's, the subconscious mind and what's really, driving their decision making and everything else that's going on. And yeah, part of my hope, it's one of the things with the program is I've tried to organize it so that if you join, like, you don't have to do much more than just show up, and it's going to happen for you. We're going to create the, the container and the atmosphere for you to be able to process through this and go through. If you just do the homework assignments and you do the stuff while you're there, whereas a lot of thing, like, you can read about this stuff, then you got to implement it. You got to figure out all that. You can, try to find it through podcasts and YouTube and stuff like that. But ultimately, you still have to be put in, like, most of our traumas or most of our things that we got to work through happened with other people. And so having other people there, it's a perfect opportunity to be triggered over and over again, right? And to figure out, oh, that's what's coming up for me. It's, one of my favorite quotes is, I think it's Ram Dass, but he says something along those lines of like, when somebody, disrespects us or whatever, or triggers us, like we want to make them the enemy. But a guru is somebody that just triggers you constantly and is like over and over again, constantly helping you see it, because that's what we want, right? It's the beauty of being in a romantic relationship is they provide this perfect mirror and like show you all of your insecurities and all your traumas and all your bullshit. And so it's the beauty of being in relationship, whether it's, in some, like I said, for that, like a romantic relationship, or being with community where you just get the opportunity to work through these things as they come up.
The community is a big one, dude, because see, I think a lot of people go to church for community, right? One thing I always struggle with, so I was in the FLDS and I believed we actually did have a community there. The people there are freaking tight.
Yeah, yeah.
However, I tried to join the Mormon church when I left in my early 20s, and I couldn't I didn't feel a part of it. Let's just put it that way. And ever since then, I haven't had a community. I don't. It doesn't, and I never thought I would. And I just accepted that. But being a part of what, like my mom passing away and things like that, dude, I'm not used to like people caring. You'll get the flowers from the company you work for or something like that. But like, people from Watt that didn't know me 3 months ago are coming to my mom's funeral. Like, that's pretty incredible. And I think that people buy into the spirit of community, not because, oh, we're going to be a part of this because this is our ticket to heaven, right? It's like, we're actually choosing to be here and paying actually, but because we see the value of it. Like, the value is so intense, and it shows that the lack of community in our society is very apparent. I talked to a guy. I was at Google Next, the conference last week, and I was talking to a guy, and we got on the subject of it, and he was like kind of jealous, like of I was telling him, oh yeah, I jumped off a cliff and did this and did that, and he's like, dang, he's like, this is awesome, So another subject that's interesting, and I think it's an interesting one for Utah specifically. Everybody gets married, right? I have been married 4 times. I'm engaged to get married a 5th time.
Been married 4 times.
I've been married 4 times, engaged to get married a 5th time. Everybody knows my story. They read about it. There's a reason for all of it, okay? Lots of horrible things happened, good things happened, whatever. Yeah. For you, relationships, you talk about it a lot. Let's talk about just a little bit of history about what's been the struggle? Where do you think you just haven't met the right person? Have you not been the right person for yourself? You know what I mean?
It's 100% on me.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a compilation of things. So, I fell in love with this girl when I was 12, right? This was like the love of my life. And, it was never going to be anything, but up until about 12 to 25, that person was like this girl I was definitely in love with. And then I met a new girl and fell in love with her. And I thought,
wait a minute, 12 to 25?
Yeah.
Did you date? You guys dated?
Like we became close. We dated when I was like 12.
Wow.
Yeah. But we like stayed good friends in high school. We wrote each other while I was on my mission.
Long relationship.
Yeah, no, she was like, even when I got home from my mission, I remember I went to her house. It was like the first person, she was there the night I got home and stuff, and everyone just kind of assumed we were always going to get together. But I also I look back now, I can't believe how naive and immature I was when it came to relationships. Like, I really had a very broken view of what it would take to be in a relationship. I don't know why I developed so poorly that way.
Do you think you told me a little bit about
I had
your
a horrible
parents,
example with my parents. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because one thing I will tell you is, even though my dad was polygamist, he actually held down 2 marriages and was taking care of 2 wives. Maybe that's the reason that in my mind.
My parents were roommates. There was very little affection. They did not communicate. As far as a relationship goes, it's like my worst case scenario of what I would want in a relationship. And I think part of that was, so it was modeled very poorly for me. And then on top of that, it just didn't look like something that was very attractive, I guess is what you could say. And so for me, and then also, I mean, look, my biggest beef always with the LDS church is every experience you have with a girl before marriage, you're just trying not to get in trouble. You're trying not to screw up. I mean, all of mine. I can think of every girl I ever kissed or made out with or whatever. And I was a good Mormon.
It's very shameful.
Oh, dude, there's no love and there's no love around it. I remember, I had this girl when I was 17, Brittany, that I dated, and God, that girl adored me. She loved the shit out of me, dude. And I remember one night, and I'd never fooled around. I'd never masturbated or anything, so I didn't know. Like, I'd never known minus wet dreams. I'd never come to anything. So I was just like, we're dry humping, dude, and I'm just like loving this. And I'm like, man, this feels really good. And next thing I know, I jizz in my pants, and I just could not have been more ashamed. And I remember we went to Wendy's afterwards, and I was so embarrassed and ashamed, and I thought I was going to hell. I mean, I'm telling you, dude, I had some real...
Isn't that interesting that you actually didn't even really know much about it, and you automatically felt
I just
massive amounts of shame?
Yeah, and it was I literally went to the worst case scenarios here. And I remember we were sitting at Wendy's, and God bless her, and she looks at me and she's like, "Do you think what we did was bad?" And I just yelled. I'm like, "Well, it wasn't good," and just completely from that day forward, dude, I shamed her so bad. I made her feel like a slut. And I actually did a breathwork session 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. And that came up. And I just was bawling, dude. I felt so sad that this girl who was trying to love me so much, and I could not have been a bigger jerk because of the shame that I had from this. And it was really sad to me. She was amazing. She adored me. She would write me a poem every day. I told her I liked overalls once, and she bought 6 pairs of overalls. She was like the cutest girl in school. Wow. This girl was amazing. And I just was sad that for whatever reason with my wiring or my belief system, that I believed that was how I should react. And it just made me sad. I felt sad for her. I didn't want to reach out to her. She's married with 6 kids, but I just wanted to apologize. Sure. So I did it energetically, right? Yeah. But I just felt sad about that. And then, after that, I fell in love with this other girl. And when I was 25, 26, and I was all in. And, I look back, they say that can I swear on this? They say that every fuckboy used to be a hopeless romantic. I mean, that was me to a T, dude. I was so into this girl. I loved her, and I just did everything I could. I played all my cards right. I really did everything right. But she had a kid in high school with her boyfriend at the time, and they gave it up to adoption. And he was just still in the picture. And, knowing now what I know about how females work and males, you don't really ever get over that first guy, not right away. And she was still kind of in love with him. And I really gave it my all. And, we became boyfriend, girlfriend. And I really thought I was going to marry this girl. And I was so excited. And I mean, this is how Mormon I was, bro. She was a little on the fence with the church. She just wasn't exactly sure of everything. And so I took her to Nauvoo for a summer vacation, bro. Wow, dude. Nauvoo. If you haven't dry humped at the Nauvoo hotel, you haven't lived, okay? So needless to say, I was all in on this girl. And she ended up, I went out of town and she cheated on me with him. And then, from there, it never really got momentum again. And dude, she actually hit me up on Facebook a couple of years ago. And she's literally just 15 years I haven't talked to this girl. And she's like, I wish I ended up with you. And I'm just like, holy shit. And it actually wasn't, it was sad. You'd think it'd be validating or something. It was the opposite. It was apparently her marriage has been terrible. And I've heard horror stories. And it was but it doesn't matter. So my heart was broken again. And so from there, 2 years later, I'm just telling you the actual story. So
you're making the point of what I'm talking about is we come in as children, we take on all these lies, and even her, she was lost too.
100%.
And now 15 years later, still lost.
100%. I know.
Okay.
So 2 years later, I meet this new girl, Shanielle, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna marry this girl. And
you're still in your 27.
I was 20. Yeah, it was about 27. Okay. Yeah. And so we ended up having a wedding date. It was going to be December 18th, 2010. And I remember I was all in. It took me about 6 months to win this girl over, and she had flipped. She was in. And I look at it now and like, I actually heard she's a doctor, which is amazing. I think she was always a very talented girl. And I look at it now and I'm really proud because she always wanted to do that. This is really cool, right? And she found a guy that fits her perfect. And so I have nothing but like real love for that. And I think it happened the way it was supposed to. But me and her just clashed. And I, again, didn't understand how to conflict resolution.
What do you mean by clash?
Well, so I didn't learn this till a couple of years ago. I went to Tony Robbins' relationship event that's in Hawaii. And dude, it's going to sound stupid, but I didn't realize that when you fight with somebody that you're in a relationship with, you just work through it. Like it's really all about the repair. It's how you handle after the fight. Up until that relationship seminar, dude, if I got in a fight, I just thought it was over.
So you lived in a very black and white mindset, which is very...
And I was reactive and I, was emotional because that's the way my father was. And so I was modeling his behavior and that felt normal to me. So yeah, she would do something that, I felt disrespected. And so I would just like...
It's over.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously not her. And so you break up and then you try to patch it from there and stuff. And anyway, and so I can look at that and we ended up breaking up, and then she, for about a year was trying to get me back, and I eventually kind of said something so she'd move on, like,
Okay.
And yeah, no, she ended up getting married, I think a year after that, and I've heard she's super happy.
So you're good luck, Chuck.
No, it's just, this is what happens when you date a lot. Well, no, normal humans get into the next relationship and they end up getting married. This is what, hell, you've done it five times. So this is what humans do. I was just like, after that one, it kind of was like, you know what, I gave it one more go after that, this other girl. And I really thought she would be the one. Long story short, she ended up kind of breaking my heart too. And after that one, I was just like, all right, my poor heart needs a break. And so I just left the church at that same time. I was like, you know what, I want to find out who I am. I want to find out what I really believe, like what is out there. And, ended up, sleeping around a lot and doing a lot.
Pendulum effect.
I did. The pendulum swung. Of course it did. You know what I mean? It was like I was a virgin into my 30s, dude. Mm-hmm. Like it's pendulum swung. And so for the next 6, 7, 8 years, it's a little bit of a blur, if I'm being honest. And, I had a lot of fun. And I was always like, I was always very intentional still. I was treated women well. I was still like top realtor. So I was productive. Sure. I was a good guy. You know, I just liked to fool around and I wasn't trying to get serious. Yeah. And so, did that. And then, and then right before COVID, I tried another relationship series. It had been 5 or 6 years. It was awesome, by the way. Like, I don't regret any of it. Like, there is no the guy I am today without that guy.
100%.
You know, all the stuff I use that makes Watts so fun and adventurous, I learned during that time, right? Just how to throw events and parties and just have fun and just create atmospheres where people wanted to be there. And there was a lot of beauty to it. And anyway, so got into another relationship and some things happened to her like a month into us dating that were just devastating for her and caused huge problems for us. And it was another year relationship that, she moved in for a little bit, so it got a little serious. But again, I just wasn't able to handle whatever. And by the way, like, I'm not naive. I think we find whatever frequency we're on. So whatever, and by the way, that woman that I dated the year of COVID, like I learned more dating her than the last 10 years combined.
So you did need it.
Oh, I'm so grateful for her. Like I honor her because we were a perfect mirror and trigger for each other in so many ways. And I grew so much dating her. And so after that one, I waited and tried to find the next person. I dated somebody last year for about 8-9 months. And that one also just our triggers were too much. And so I have really been trying to, I had a mushroom trip I did a couple of years ago. This is pretty cool that, and in it, I was able to see like a silhouette of my future wife. And she basically was laughing at me. I couldn't really see who she looked like. It was just more of a silhouette, but she was laughing and I was like, what's the laughing? And she goes, Jimmy, I'm not going anywhere. Like I'm your soulmate, but you wouldn't accept the version of me that would accept this version of you. So as soon as you get there, Let's go.
Bro, do you want to hear the craziest freaking story? Divorced 4 times. I go do ayahuasca. I am single. After I get this great breakthrough and I'm just kind of like, it proceeds to show me my entire future until I leave this world. It shows me that I meet this little Hispanic girl, this short, little, tiny Hispanic girl, which you've met, Sophie. And she's like it. She's the thing that I've been trying to find for my entire life. And I failed and failed and failed and failed. I found her. Well, at the resort, there was a small little Hispanic girl. And I was like, oh, I must have just like inserted her into my trip, whatever.
While you're doing ayahuasca?
Well, no, she was at the resort. So the next day, like,
but yeah, the same trip.
Yeah, but I was like, after I got in trip, I was like, I must have just inserted her because here she is.
Sure.
Come home 4 months later, I go on a date with Sophie and I'm like, oh, she's cool. And we sit down and she's like, you gonna have a drink? I'm like, nope, I don't drink. And here's why. And I just freaking unload and tell her this whole entire story. The very first date, dude, we did not see each other every weekend since that first date.
Wow.
For almost 2 years now. 3 months into dating, I had told her, I was like, I'll take you on a mushroom journey whenever you want to. I'll never ask you to do it. But if you tell me you're like, I want to do it, I will take you on that journey. 3 months into dating, she's like, I want to do it. And she had never done anything like that. So we do it, low dose, 2 grams, like nothing. We do it. And in the trip, I see her and I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, you're the girl. Like I did not connect the dots beforehand, dude. And I'm telling you, to your point, I was not going to have her until I changed my energy. It just wasn't going to happen. Even though I did so many changes up to that point, I wasn't going to have her until I changed my energy. And once I changed my energy, it was like instant. I like had this person finally, after all these failed relationships and so much turmoil, and who would have not given up, like the amount of times that I just had such horrible things happen, dude, losing my daughter and like infidelity on the other side, not my side. And like just really crazy stories as to what happened to my marriages. You would think like this guy's never going to get married again. And here I am. And to your point, it was me changing my energy that caused that.
Yeah. And so for me, it's why I think I've never like stressed. And the other part of it is I really enjoy dating. Like I really like it. Like I go on a couple dates a week still. Like I just enjoy meeting people. I enjoy going out. I enjoy, entertaining. And so for me, it's like, yeah, I mean, my last relationship ended 4 or 5 months ago. So I don't feel like I'm fully in a place where I'm quite ready yet. But in the meantime, I'm prepping myself. Like I study relationships right now. Group 4 is in their section of the course that's all about relationships. So I'm reading about relationships for like an hour a day right now. And I love it. And so I'm just doing different things. But that's how you get to be where I'm at and be a single. Yeah. It's not like this crazy thing. It's not. And also like, I think certain people they need to be in a relationship. And I've never been that way. Like in the past, when I've gotten into relationships that weren't right, I feel trapped. I feel like I need to get out of it. I feel like I can't breathe. And so I know that, my last relationship, I'll say, was like the first time that I was like, oh, this feels good. I think I'm comfortable just being in a relationship now. And I really did put her first, which every other girl I've ever dated in my life, their complaint was I always put my friends first. I always put other things first. And this last one I didn't. And so I was proud of that. And so I think I've finally figured out that next time I get in a relationship, I think I know how to do it now. But yeah, it's just working through those things, man. And so that's how my life with romance has gone.
In ayahuasca, it said everything is perfect all the time.
Oh, I wouldn't. Here's the one thing I can say is I wouldn't do my life different.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want it to be different.
Well, and at some point, I believe you'll look in hindsight and be like, oh man.
Oh, I do
this
it now.
Worked out. No,
it's already. I say this all the time. I accidentally nailed my life. Like the only problem with being in a position where you're still single is you just don't know who you're going to marry or when. But as a guy, I mean, your stock kind of doesn't go down; it goes up. As a girl,
I feel like as
a woman, you do have like a time when you can have kids and things like that. So there's more of a clock. Whereas for a guy, it's it's not. And so, I wouldn't have it any different. That's the best thing I know, that I've kind of always honored my heart and honored my feelings. And so I try to work through those triggers and those traumas and things, because I want to be able to be less reactive. It's one of the things I've really been studying this year is really working through to just be more grounded in my energy and to be less reactive to everything. And I'm getting better at it. And so I know that'll help me in whatever my next relationship is as well.
That's interesting. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. I hope, I hope you find someone, that's everything that you want, because you've experienced so much. However, marriage and fatherhood is like a whole other game. Something really cool happened. My son just turned 13. And I decided that I don't want him to be in his 30s or 40s and then enter what? I was like, how do I prepare this kid now? And so if we remember, the teens are horrible, right? I would not relive my teens. I loved my teens wouldn't. Yeah. I wouldn't.
I had the best group of friends. I actually loved my teens.
Okay. Yeah. It was very terrible for me. But
you were also in a cult. So
yeah, that might have something to do with it. I may have been child trafficked and doing construction at 14. Okay, you're right. But anyway, I decided, I'm like, I'm going to do this. I bought 6 silver coins that have Marcus Aurelius quotes on them.
Sick.
And I'm going to give him one every year for his birthday, but he has to complete a challenge in order to earn the coin. Then throughout the year, we're going to do lessons on finance and women and this and that. But the first challenge I decided, being 13 years old, was an ice bath. And I got an ice bath, big 150-gallon tank. And I said, all right, I was like, you got to go in for at least 60 seconds in order to earn this coin. So he jumps in, he lasts about 10 seconds and just couldn't. He gets out. And I was like, Silas, the reason that I'm doing this is I want you to understand that this is like life. Mm-hmm. It's really freaking hard sometimes. And if we don't have the resilience to push through, we're going to fail. We have to be able to push through these things, especially as men. And I said, but the cool thing is I'm going to be here to help you through this journey. So I'm going to get in the ice bath with you and we're going to do it together and you're going to do it. He's like, okay, Dad. We got in and he went 90 seconds with me. Awesome. Dude, what a rewarding thing to like see my son like push through. And I give some credit to you because you've kind of inspired me that these types of things, I'm seeing grown men do these things. And I'm thinking to myself, more fathers need to be going through a rigorous like training with their sons so that when they're turn 18 and 19 and they're prepared to leave the house, they have this, ability to handle stuff.
Well, the program was designed to be the one I wish my dad had found. Right. And it's never been lost on me that like, as the dads heal, they heal the families and those kids going forward.
Yeah. My oldest brother was there and I had some of my brothers there and we were all there to kind of support him. And he said, I wish we had this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really. That would be, awesome, it's incredible. Well, dude, you're lucky because you get to spread your word to my 7 listeners, but what is it that you're doing right now, promoting? Is there anything that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, we're always taking applications for We Are the Tribe. We're trying to grow that right now. We've got our Summerfest coming up in July. It's a good time to get in. We do weekly calls and get-togethers all the time. So if anybody's listening to this, I post everything on my Instagram. Just go to Mr. Jimmy Rex, and I promote everything there. Like when I'm speaking at the Man in the Arena tour coming up May 17th here in Utah. I've got my books, links on there, everything else, all the podcasts that I do. So that's the best place to find me.
Beautiful, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us.
Yeah, man. It's cool what you're doing, dude. You're a good dude.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
All right, man.